Does Karen Murphy need to be with Harry Dresden? The answer might surprise you.
The Belated Binge Podcast.
Hi, and welcome to Belated Binge. I'm Zach, former radio host and lifelong sports fan, discovering the magic of urban fantasy. Today, we're talking Dresden Files, so spoiler warning for everything through Battleground. And the discussion for the day, the flavor, if you will, is why Karen Murphy needed to be with Harry Dresden. And not just as a romantic partner. While that was a compelling part of the storyline, it's far more than that. In reflecting on her journey, which I had the idea for before I found out that I was going to be reflecting on her whole story, at least assuming she doesn't come back later as a Valkyrie, which I don't know if I think that should happen or not. It could, without going down a complete rabbit hole, which I'm prone to do. I love the idea of seeing Murph again at the end of this series, perhaps, like at the very end, maybe. But if she does come back at some point, then I think it also cheapens the stakes. Harry is already regularly punching above his weight class at literal all times. And even when he died, he didn't actually die. So if we start bringing back other characters too, then how do we continue to even care or worry about anyone in the series when anything is happening that should have us tense or stressed or scared or thinking, oh no, don't take away Michael, but nope, he's okay. No, don't take away Murph, but nope, she's back now. You kind of get what I'm saying? I don't know. That's not the point of today's chat. Real quick, before we do get into today's discussion, though, can we just take a moment to say, fuck you, Rudolph? Okay, now that we got that out of the way, why is Harry Dresden the mini-me or the Jerry Maguire for Karen Murphy? Why does he complete her? It starts at the very beginning, I think, to figure out the answer to this just high-stakes question. We have to go back to kind of how we met Murph, and that's not to say in the short story where they met when she was a beat cop with the troll under the bridge, not that far back. I mean at the beginning of the Stormfront, right? She starts off as a no-nonsense female cop who wears her hair shorter than she likes and is consumed by breaking the glass ceiling of the boys' club in the police force. She doesn't seem to trust, well, about anyone, especially Harry Dresden. She is always suspecting that he's lying or that he's guilty. She tries to arrest him multiple times, including a tiny bit of police brutality. In Stormfront, she thinks he's guilty, puts a warrant out for him, blames him for the Scorpion attacking her, claims that he set her up, handcuffs herself to him while he's trying to save her. In Full Moon, she physically assaults and arrests him because she thinks that he's the one that is behind all of the werewolf activity that is happening and the deaths that go with it. In Grave Peril, she gets pissed off and hangs up the phone on him when he's trying to warn her that he wasn't the one who called her earlier, directly leading to her being attacked by the demon impersonator. And ta-da, that's the first 3 books in a nutshell. And the whole time that all of this is going down, Harry seems to consider her a friend. But it absolutely does not feel like that is particularly mutual. Sure, there are micro moments within it where she will do some kind of gesture that suggests that this act that she has is actually just that, an act. This police facade, I guess, for lack of a better way to put it, because she does, take care of him when he's got a concussion in Stormfront. She does, hold his hand and reassure him that she's there, but then she immediately follows it up, like I said, by putting a warrant out for him and thinking that he's guilty when he doesn't tell her every single thing that he should might not even be the right word, correct? Like, he's holding back information from her, but not in a malicious way. He's doing it because he thinks he's protecting her from the consequences of knowing said information, but she goes all the way to the extreme of thinking that it's all malicious intent and it's all making him a bad guy, I guess, until summer night, when Harry finally confides more of the truth about the supernatural world inside of a Walmart of all places. That moment, that conversation, that's when her character turns around. And while she's still a badass cop, she becomes a friend, an ally in the true sense of the words, right? And she trusts Harry and others in their circle, kind of from that point on. And that's obviously where the will they, won't they type of romantic arc kind of begins, right? And we get a lot along that pathway, if you will. We get the really stupid Kincaid stuff as one excuse for the won't they, and it never makes any sense to me at all. Actually, let's stick with that for a minute. This is all not going to line up perfectly chronologically, but I don't think it has to for the point to actually make sense. So ultimately, throughout the will they, won't they narrative, Murph gives Harry two general reasons why she doesn't think that they would work together romantically. The first is that she doesn't want anything serious. If he would be willing to just bang it out with her, she'd be DTF like we said back in the day. But because Harry can't do casual, it wouldn't work. And this makes some sense for someone who's been married before and is married to her work. It comes off as a little bit of a cop out. See what I did there? Cop out. Yeah. Yeah, you're in the right place. But it's logical, right? But the second reason that she gives him kind of completely contradicts the first, as she also says that she wants to be with someone that she can grow old with. She is a vanilla mortal. Harry is not. She was going to live maybe 80-ish years or so if the job didn't take her out first. Harry would live for 200, 300 years, apparently. Because of that, they wouldn't be compatible with each other. Now let's assess this Kincaid situation for a second. Casual? Check. But he's not even fully human. He was already centuries old when she met him. And so while I wouldn't like it kind of either way, if you just said they did it once after the Mavra thing happened, fine, I guess. If you absolutely have to use it as a way to get Murph out of the way in Deadbeat, I would have liked it better if she just met a random person rather than Kincaid in particular. But the idea that not only did they somehow strike up this fling, they kept up with each other and kept seeing each other off and on later. That's the thing that bugs me way more, given everything that she's told Harry. It doesn't make sense to me. Again, I would have been totally fine with it if she just got a boyfriend that was an accountant or something, and that would have been way more plausible and felt more in line with her character. Because again, in this series, aside from Harry himself, if we pretend Kincaid didn't happen, she's been, at least up until the point in which she met Kincaid, she was always like leery of anything in the supernatural. She likes things she can control. She likes keeping things, compartmentalized in a way that she can rationalize it and she can solve the problem in front of her. And that is the exact opposite thing that you get when you shack up with an inhuman assassin. I don't know. Anyways, romantic storylines aside, because that's not what this podcast or this YouTube channel is really about, despite the fact that some of my best content has to do with romantic ships in books between fictional characters, and that's never going to make sense to me. But again, outside of the romantic part, Murph became Dresden's ride or die. She was Letty to his Dom. Mia to his Brian O'Connor. How many Fast and Furious references can I put into this before you get what I'm saying? And it's actually a bit ridiculous how she was leveling up right alongside him in her own way. Not that she shouldn't also grow as a character, but just like these are magical monsters of the highest magnitude, and Harry is barely escaping with his life while becoming apparently one of the most sheerly powerful wizards on the planet. And she's really good at martial arts and shooting. It's sort of like how powerful is the magic if this normal human can continue to go toe to toe? Sometimes I think that Butcher needed to write her out of a story just because he can't keep putting her in these scenes and letting her survive so that we can still believe that there's stakes in all of this. Like I mentioned earlier, stakes. And it's kind of wild to me. The arc that Murph ends up having in that way. And it's starting to sound like I'm being critical of the writing, but that's not the intent at all. It's more a reflection of Murph as a character, that she is particularly unique to be able to hang as long as she did. And quite frankly, the way that Harry was barely making it out with his life in so many of those situations, he was getting out because of her. She was the one saving his ass. It's sort of like the Walmart scene was something that she needed to not only trust Harry, because he finally told her everything that he was up against and what he'd been trying to protect her from, as I mentioned earlier. And it also marked her coming to grips with the mental attack that she went through in grave peril. It's like having these two things happen at that time is exactly what she needed to realize, that she couldn't actually go up against this stuff, that she couldn't handle it. And it was almost like having that realization is exactly what allowed her to go up against this stuff and allowed her to be able to handle it. Like a healthy amount of fear and self-awareness were the secrets to unlocking her ability to level up in her own way and face it, and ultimately become the most badass vanilla mortal on the planet in her 5-foot package. And of course, it was because of Harry too. He was her link, that innate ability in herself, the link to the person she needed to be her best self. And we know that because we saw that growth. And then when we saw what happened when changes happened, and we see the fallout in the short story Aftermath, how it broke her. She's still a badass, but she's not herself. And then, as we see more in Ghost Story, without her badge and without Harry, she reverts back to a more combative personality, mistrusting everyone, including her friends, more narrow-minded, more harsh in her just like X's and O's mentality, good, evil, kill the evil thing. And it was like she was devolving. In Aftermath, she was broken, but she was there for her people. In Ghost Story, she was broken and she was isolated, not trusting her people, not confiding in her people. It's like what I imagined she would have become if she and Harry had never had that Walmart chat. And then the moment that Harry's back in her life. She comes back to being the character that we love. Of course, there's a bit of an adjustment that she has to make to accept that he's really back, but it doesn't take much before they pick up right where they left off. And obviously, the romantic part finally starts to fall into place kind of along the way, which I'm completely certain Butcher did just so that he could take her away from Harry, because he takes everything away from Harry. But that's another topic for another day. Keeping our sights on Murphy and wrapping this thing up, it's like Harry was some missing puzzle piece in her life, and without him, she loses a big part of herself. And I'll end this by saying again, F you, Rudolph. In fact, leave that as a comment if you are watching this on YouTube or Spotify, and go ahead and like the video. Subscribe for more Dresden and urban fantasy content. If you're listening on a podcast player, please leave a 5-star review. I would greatly appreciate that. And remember, life is short. Drive that trusty Blue Beetle. Curl up in your basement apartment with a good book and fuego the whole damn building if anyone has a problem with it. Just make sure that Bob makes it out and the Svartalfs are able to keep enough power going to catch the next episode of Belated Binge.